let's actually start with a quick poll. So raise your hand if you're ready to skip to the end of 2020. Raise your hand if masks have become like sunglasses and you continue to lose them only to find them in the oddest of places. Only me? Raise your hand if you think that you're racist. I think me too. This week, it might get uncomfortable and emotional, but we're going to do exactly what Father Herb encouraged us to do 2 weeks ago. We're going to enter into the fray and focus on the topic that has recently taken the media spotlight, racism. Oh, and since this is confession, let's start off lightly. This was my hair in 7th grade. Ugh. My name is Paul Devine, and this is Confessions of a Bearded White Guy. Okay, before we do anything, let's lay some ground rules, because what we're talking about this week is a touchy issue and things can get out of hand. Okay, I'm gonna be sharing a lot of hard truths about myself, and about white people in general. And I do it because I want to stop being a part of the problem and I want to be a part of the solution. Okay, so rule number 1, let's show a little bit of mercy. We're all trying to navigate our way through these experiences, and sometimes we make mistakes. Know that I actually truly want to unite myself with Christ's heart, and I will be the first to ask for your forgiveness. Okay, and number 2, you may disagree with things that I say. Please don't tune out. That is when we fail as a people. When we stop the conversations, we stop growing. Okay, let's try to be better together. I want to get to heaven. I think you do too. Let's help each other out. Okay, so let's dive in. Racism. Okay, we're not going to spend time trying to argue whether racism exists or not. It does. Okay, I want to just move on and talk about that reality. But we should state some things that are fairly clear and pretty obvious. Okay, I am a white guy. And to be honest, I'm probably talking to a predominantly white parish. That is just who we are right now. And so you may ask yourself, what is this guy doing? Why is he talking about racism? What does he think he has to say? And I want to start by simply actually confessing something real. Okay, my first confession, number 1, and I'm ashamed to admit this. It's hard for me to say, but after only a couple of weeks after George Floyd's death, I actually started to want the media to move on from the protests. Okay, before you get upset, that's not the end of the story. Right afterwards, I was very much mentally engaged in the situation, keeping up with the news, trying to talk to my kids about the topic of racism. But rather quickly, it honestly actually became just another thing. And I started to tune it out. I found myself getting annoyed that it was constantly in the headlines. And I found myself wanting to consume something different. And I realized that that is not right. And I felt this continue until a couple weeks ago. I woke up to a thought that I really have not been able to get out of my head since. I am white, and because of that, I have the privilege of moving on if I want to when I'm tired of talking about discrimination. Moving on from this topic is a choice I can make, and no one would be the wiser. Sure, I would make a couple of comments and conversations when it comes up, but internally, I could simply check out. And the problem is that there are people out there who are not able to make that choice. They cannot tune it out. For people of color, it is a daily challenge, and they make choices about where to eat, what to wear, where to exercise, even as simple as whether or not they can fix a window on their house without somebody driving by thinking that they're trying to break in. Isn't that crazy? All sorts of things that we cannot even fathom. I don't worry about that stuff. And it bothers me. And it should bother all of us. Because 1 Corinthians 12:26 says, if one member of Christ's body suffers, all suffer. If one member is honored, all rejoice. One of the 7 principles of social justice teaching in the church is solidarity. Okay, I love this excerpt from one of St. John Paul II encyclicals on social concern. This is from paragraph 38. It reads, solidarity is not a feeling of vague compassion or shallow distress at the misfortunes of so many people, both near and far. On the contrary, it is a firm and persevering determination to commit oneself to the common good. That is to say, to the good of all and of each individual, because we are all really responsible for all. I love this paragraph. Why are we talking about race this week? Why am I talking about race this week? Because we are all really responsible for all. That last line. Maybe you are like me. Maybe thus far in your life, you have experienced that vague compassion and shallow distress, which I confess I have felt. You feel it and then you move on. I'm not okay with that anymore. And I'm really sorry for settling for that prior to 2 weeks ago. Okay, the church is asking us to commit oneself, and I, for one, am ready for that. I hope you are with me. There's a quote that is floating around right now by Martin Luther King Jr., and I think it's going to set up the rest of our week. And it struck home when I read it. It says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." That's powerful. Gosh, I hope that we are friends that speak up. For the rest of this week, we're going to talk about ways that we can be a part of the solution. But for today, I simply want to give you a quick challenge. I want you to reflect on the many ways that you have just had vague compassion, shallow distress. Maybe the quiet ways that racism has reared its head in your life. I know it's weird for a predominantly white community to speak about racism, but as a therapist friend of mine said to me recently, racism is a white person problem just as much as a black person problem. And if we're silent, we are a part of that problem. We need each other to overcome it. So I'll leave with that today, and I'll see you in a couple of days. I'll be praying for you. Bye.